god, it's driving me nuts. I had purchased this Ofra palette that I wanted to share with you guys today, and I've been looking for it for an hour or more, and I cannot, for the love of God, find it. I actually went and looked up to see if I actually ordered it or not, and I initially couldn't even find the order, but eventually I did, thank God. So I'm not crazy. I did order it, and I'm pretty sure I shared it with you guys too. I purchased this palette 3 months ago before I went on this break, and I kept on stopping myself from using it this whole time because I wanted to share it with you guys. I wanted to first try it with you guys, and it's driving me nuts. It's literally driving me nuts, and it's like stopping me from doing anything normal. So does this happen to you guys? Does this happen to you guys? You know what? I need to somehow suck it up and get on with it, because I have a lot planned today, and today is my only day that I can do those things, because again, tomorrow and day after is a crazy day. So let's just get on with it. I thought that the very first video I should make, after I come back, should be like a full video. Should be about what happened, because not all of you get my notifications, so you don't know what happened 3 months ago. So let's get started. I thought I need to get ready anyways for my next video, so why don't I do that on camera and talk to you guys at the same time. I don't know what the sound quality is like because I've left that door open. Maybe I should close it, right? So hold on a second. I will be using most of the products from this bag, so I'm not going to be talking about them. You guys already know what's in it if you have seen my travel makeup bag video with my mom. If you haven't, go check it out. I will link it somewhere here, because I don't know how to operate this new YouTube platform, the Creator Studio, so I'll try to link it somewhere here. If not, it's just like a couple of videos back. Okay, so basically I started making these jewelry pieces, this one and the previous rose one that I shared with you guys about 6 months ago, and I started gifting them out, and I got a really good response about them. People were really liking it. I was really enjoying making them, and I wanted to make more, but given how much makeup junk I have in my collection, I didn't want to make those just for myself. And I knew there were only as many friends as I have that I could gift. And, so I was almost done, gifting a lot of them. So I decided to try my hand out at a craft fair, sort of. Basically, it was a Ganesh festival. I'll try sharing some of the pictures from it. I didn't take too many pictures about it, and why I'll tell you in a minute. That one was scheduled for 12th of September. I don't remember the date exactly. I'll put it on the screen here. But it was scheduled for that day, and I was working frantically because each of my jewelry pieces, like this is the simplest one that I have created, and this would take me, about 20 minutes to make. But most of my other bigger necklaces, I will try to share pictures of different necklaces as we go along. Take me about at least, I would say, 2 hours minimum to make the base, which is with polymer clay, and then depending on how much beading and everything that goes in it, it takes me another couple of hours to finish the whole piece, so the whole set, like, which is necklace and earrings, takes me about 3 to 5 hours to finish. So I knew that it was going to take me a long time to create enough pieces to justify the cost of the booth. So basically I did the calculation, and given the booth cost, even the shared booth cost, I shared the booth with one of the friends, I would have to sell 50 earrings or more if everybody bought 2 and got the discount, just to break even with the booth cost, not considering the cost of materials or my time or the cost of packaging and all of that. So, or cost of gas. So yeah, it was a crazy deal, and I was freaked out because I had never sold anything before retail, So I had no idea about it, and I wasn't sure how that was going to go. So I was working frantically on it, and I decided this about mid-August, I have to say. So you might have noticed that my upload rate had reduced to begin with. On 15th of August, my older one also started kindergarten and was having kind of a hard time adjusting to this new life, new rules, new people. He was having a hard time with it. Then on the 20th or 19th of August, we got a call from India saying that my father-in-law was really sick. He had been sick a little bit, nothing major, like just some fever and such for a couple of weeks before that. So, when we got the call, we were like, okay, he's really sick, so my husband needs to go and meet him and, just till he gets better and come back. But my husband didn't have a visa, okay, to come back. Basically, he had the visa, but he didn't have it stamped. And any of you who knows the visa process, it's extremely stressful, because you have to first of all get all the documents together, and then you need to take a date online to go for dropping off your documents in the American consulate in India, and you need to get a date for your actual visa interview, like, whatever, a few days after that. First of all, he had to leave in a rush. Like, we got the call at night. He wanted to leave for India in the morning. He delayed it a little bit, thinking that he needed to get his laptop fixed and all of that. The kids were not prepared. We had not mentally prepared them for it. They had, not lived without their dad for as extended a period of time. We had lived for a couple of days, but not more than that. To add to that, my husband still hadn't finished the paperwork that he needed to do online to get the dates online. And we didn't know what dates he would get. And he called me from the airport. One of his colleagues was with him in the flight, and her date was in October. So now he was leaving end of August, and we didn't know if he would be able to come back before almost end of October. And I started freaking out. And my husband still hadn't finished his online application, and he thought that he should be able to get internet during the flight and finish doing the online application. Luckily, you can say his flight was delayed. He was able to finish the application there, and then his flight took off, and he sent me, like, you need a confirmation code to access the application again, in two different places. So he called me, said that his flight was taken off, and I called his mom to let her know that his flight was delayed, but it was all settled, and he was leaving now, and he should reach India in like 24 hours. So I called her to tell her that, and at that time she told me that his father had actually passed that morning. And that just started this whole crazy emotional thing for me, because first of all, I did not want to tell my husband, whenever he would call me in between flights. He had a break journey, and he was going to call me from wherever his first halt was, and I was not supposed to tell him that that had happened. And at the same time, I wanted to get the best dates for him, and I couldn't find any dates until October in Bombay. That's where he's from. And I knew that once he found out, he is really really close to he was really close to his parents, both mom and dad. So I knew that once he found out, he would be in no mental state to do this processing. And I also learned that it was not just the online application. We had to pay the fees online. Those fees can only be paid from an Indian bank account. Now, my dad was in US at the time, so he didn't have access to his bank account in India, and he doesn't do online banking much. My brother was sleeping, and he was, I think, on night duty or something, and I couldn't get hold of him. The moment my husband finished the application, there was a date available a week in advance, and I was very excited. I'm like, okay, thank God, he can go. And then whatever the formalities that he needs to now deal with are finished, he can probably fly back in a couple of weeks I can, kind of hold the fort. But every 5 minutes that I was checking, the date kept on going forward and forward and forward. So initially the first date I saw was 28th of August, then I saw 30th of August, then 1st of September, 4th of September, 15th of September. It kept on getting pushed forward and forward. And one of my cousins walks in, and I know that her husband, has to travel to India quite often. So I was almost in tears when she walked in. And I was like, please, do you have an Indian bank account through which you can pay my husband's visa fees so that I can book a date for him? By the time my cousin walks in, it had already gone to, I think, 19th of September. And I was like, can you please just, give me a bank account? And she's like, yes, we have it. Don't worry, just give me whatever the confirmation code that you have, and I'll ask my husband to pay. But it is not immediate. It's not like you pay online and your order is done and then you can go and book a date. Apparently now the money has to go from the Indian bank to the consulate once the banks open in India, which would be not for another 4 or 5 hours. I was working in US time, and India is 12 hours offset. So basically it was still nighttime in India. And only after that would I be able to book a date. And as I told you, the date had already gone from 28th of August to like almost end of September in the matter of a couple of hours. And I was freaking out. I was sad, but I was not even able to process that sadness of losing my father-in-law, because I was freaked out about when my husband would be able to come back. So I gave the information to my cousin, but even before that, my brother in India woke up. He called me back and I asked him to pay, and luckily he was able to pay the fees. And then it was just waiting game for me to get the confirmation about the consulate getting paid. And I have to say, those were one of like the worst hours, because I had the knowledge that I had lost my father-in-law. I really, really loved him. He was one of the best people I have known in my life. And I'm not just saying that because, he was my father-in-law or because he has passed. He was one of the, real rags to riches stories, you can say. Someone who had really worked very, very hard in his life. And he was really, really sweet and amazing. And I was missing him, I had met him last when my youngest one was born. But the most time I had spent with him was when I went to India. And that time I used to go every freaking day with him out, just the two of us, because I wanted to drink sugarcane juice every day. And he used to take me out. So I kept on thinking about those times, and I was upset. I was upset that my husband left even before he got a visa date, because I didn't know it was this complicated. I was upset that my parents might have to leave. My parents were leaving 19th of September to go back, and they had to leave because they already had made plans for travel after that. So they had to leave, and I was freaked out that I would be left without any help once they leave, with the two kids. And my boys are rambunctious, especially the older one, and then the younger one just follows what his brother does. So I was freaking out about that. Anyways, eventually I did get the confirmation, and by that time the actual visit date in Bombay had moved all the way up to end of October, just like my husband said. And it wasn't shifting. I didn't know what to do, but thank God it struck me that let me check other consulates. And luckily in Chennai, the dates were available for, sorry, the heater just kicked in and it makes that weird woofing sound. For 4th of September was available, for 2nd of September was available, and I just took it. And that's it. So I was like, okay, you're going to submit your paperwork in Bombay 23rd of August, and then you are going to go for a visa interview for 4th of September. So my husband reached India. Unfortunately, his brother had already told him right after he landed, even before he got home. So he was upset. He called me and just said that, did you know my dad had passed? And I was like, yes, I know. How are you doing? What are you going to do? And so everybody had already gone from hospital to home. So he went home. Now, in the meantime, I checked with one of his friends And I told him that, this is what I did. I had to take interview at one spot and then submission of the paperwork at the other. And he says to me that that's not allowed. Because he said that the last time they did this, the consulate that you specify in the online application form is where you have to go. Then I spent the next whole day just trying to see if I could shift his dates back to Bombay. And so I kept on checking the dates. But there was a number listed there. So before I changed my dates, I was like, let me at least call and confirm. So I called the number that was listed there, and thankfully, the guy there said that it is completely allowed for you to submit your paperwork in one spot, have a different consulate listed on the, on the DS 160 or something it's called, the online form, and then, have your date at a different consulate. It was allowed. Thank God it was allowed. And I was able to, keep that date for him. But in the meantime, the days were passing. I wasn't sure what to do because I'd already paid the money for the booth, and it was a significant amount of money. And I wanted to actually cancel this activity multiple times during this period because my husband wasn't here. My kids were going crazy. So in the meantime, this was still just the second week of school. Okay, for my older one. Within the first week, I would say I got a note about him running around. I went and talked to the teacher. I told her that he's hyper. When he gets emotional, he gets hyper. When he gets tired, he gets hyper. When he gets exhausted, he gets even more hyper. So my son was just having a very hard time dealing with the fact that his dad wasn't here, and I had to get up in the morning. My mom used to make their breakfast. Thank God my parents were here, so get him dressed, fed. Then I would have to take him, drive him to school, drop him off, come home, get the younger one ready. The younger one would not wake up before the older one was off to school. So in a way that was a blessing. If he did wake up on one of the occasional days, they would spend pretty much the entire morning just fighting and whining and crying. And my older one was doing that irrespective of whether the younger one was up or not. So I used to come home and just pretty much from the point I got home till it was time to pick up my kids, I used to just work on making the jewelry. I sometimes took a break around lunchtime if I was really, really hungry to eat lunch. Otherwise, I used to just work all the way through. Then by the end of the day, around 5:40, I used to literally run, get them home, and then the hell would break loose. They would pretty much spend the entire evening either crying or fighting or something like that, and it was very stressful. Like even my parents had started scolding them because they were just out of control. Then by around 8:39, I would put them to bed, and once they were both asleep, I would wake up again and come back out and work until about 2 o'clock, and then go to bed and wake up again the next day at around 6 o'clock, and the whole cycle would just start again. And in the meantime, I was still going through the entire kind of cycle of being sad and being angry at my husband. Whenever I would see the kids like crying and throwing tantrums, I would get mad at him again. So it was just a huge internal struggle. I had an upcoming biopsy scheduled. Partially, I was freaking out about that too. So I was like, okay, if I don't do this fair at this point of time, I would probably never be able to do it again, because I didn't know what the outcome of that biopsy was going to be. So that was another element that was kind of happening at the back of my mind. So eventually at some point of time, I told myself that my father-in-law, as I mentioned, was somebody who had worked really, really hard to get to where he eventually retired at. And I was like, what would he recommend? And I thought that he would definitely say that you have to do this now. So I decided to go ahead with doing the boot. As I said, my husband's visa was scheduled for the 4th of September. Just because your dated schedule is not a guarantee that you will get that visa on that day. So we didn't know again, when he would actually get home. This event was scheduled for the 12th weekend, I think. And luckily my husband got his visa. Now it was a waiting game for a few days until his passport got home. And after his passport got home, I thought he would fly back immediately. He said that he might have to stay there for the weekend, but I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I said, you have to come. And he came. He actually reached halfway through the first day of the event. So the first day of the event was actually a disaster. We got there really late. I had a partner in sharing the booth. So the way they had set up their section already was such that I didn't have enough space to put up my stuff, but they wouldn't know how much stuff I had, so I can't blame them. But they had already set it up, and my pieces were not seen very well. Luckily, one of my older one's teacher from his preschool, he loves her and she loves him, had offered to take him. So thank God for her, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do a thing. But my mom and dad both had to take care of my younger one, who just wanted to wander around the whole place while I set up the booth. I had never done it before. I didn't know how to do it efficiently. It was crazy windy, so everything was just flying off. And it was, the first day was a disaster. I was hoping to at least break even on the first day. Didn't happen. I didn't even come close. Actually, I didn't make almost any money the first day. And I was freaked out, but my husband came back that day, and it was a huge help just having around first of all mentally. I was worried because I knew that he was angry at me for making him come, but I was glad that he was here. Let me quickly do the eye makeup. I'm gonna do that off camera, not really, but I want to show that to you guys in the next video, because I'm making a dupes video after this. And so I'm gonna do a side by side with two different palettes. So let me do that. All right, so my eye makeup is done. Can you tell which eye has like high-end, like really high-end luxury brand, and which eye has kind of like really cheap? I mean, there's a $15 palette on one of these eyes. Can you guess? Anyways, you'll find out in the next video. But yeah, so after my husband came back and after the first event, we were exhausted, needless to say, not just from that weekend, but actually from the entire 3 weeks. My husband was still, very emotional about the whole thing. He wanted to go back to India for a month with all of us to take care of the formalities of, there's so much paperwork that needs to be finished, but I couldn't let my older one, who was barely adjusting to his new school life, taken out of school and gone for a month. I just couldn't see him not liking the school life, and then see that there is a possibility that he can not go to school for 1 month at a stretch. So I didn't want that. He has very good memory, so I couldn't have that, and I had to put my foot down. It was very difficult. It was I had to kind of take the entire blame from outside and from my own internal struggle that I wasn't letting my husband go and take care of this at that time. So we didn't go, we stayed. I had a biopsy scheduled after the first event, and that happened. Then I fretted over the next whatever days to get the results. I had not booked any other events after that, but another opportunity presented itself. Someone contacted me, and I knew that my husband had to go back for at least a week. So we discussed, if I could do it, and he wanted me to kind of continue with the momentum that I had going at the time. So I booked another event for Diwali, and this was in Cupertino. So I wanted to check out what kind of response I would get, because it's a different crowd. This was in mid-October, and by that time I was kind of healing from my biopsies. I had to get 2 of them done, so I was healing from them during that time. But after that, it was a home-based event, which I did. It was very nice. It was a women's group. So I really enjoyed just being there. Then I actually sponsored a writers event by creating bookmark for that event. That was also a very amazing event. I'll share a link to their Facebook page in the description box below. The talks were amazing. People who presented their books and told and talked about their life stories. It was really great. So I did that, and eventually on 19th of October I restarted my gym after a break of 2 months. It's been very difficult getting back on track. Today I have to go to the gym too. I didn't go for the morning session because I wanted to record my videos and I wanted to be fresh for that and not exhausted. But yeah, my husband still needs to go back to India for a week. He's going actually next week for 10 days. And it's just going to be me this time. But yeah, so that's what it has been. I have been on a very major creative journey with my jewelry. If you would like to see my pieces, I have a link to my Facebook page below. You can go check it out. You can DM me if you're interested in purchasing any of the pieces. And I will make a separate video about whatever I have available. I'm looking there because that's where I have put them up. But yeah, that's what I have been up to, and that's what has been happening. And I had to share this with you guys to let you know why I have been missing from here. So thank you for sticking around and watching the video till here. I will see you guys in the next one, which is going to be a dupes video. Okay, exciting, very exciting. All right, I'll see you guys then. Bye.